What is up, good people? Jungle Inc. here, hope you're doing well. Did a poll on Twitter today, and I asked people, which one are we going to see first? The Supreme Court rule on this student loan nonsense, or will we get a ruling in Ripple versus the SEC? Now, surprisingly, at the time of this recording, about 55% of people think we're going to get something for Ripple first. Doesn't really matter which is first. Just goes to show that, court cases in general are just a big racket. They take forever, and the only ones that truly win are attorneys. Speaking of how long court cases take, someone on Twitter asked, how long did it take for the library case? I was kind of thinking that the other day too. I remember it was taking a long time, couldn't remember how long. Former SEC Regional Director Mark Fagel said, well, it's about 4.5 months in that case to get summary judgment, but it was less voluminous than what we see with Ripple. And then John Deaton added on there, the filings in Ripple are about 10x that of library. Remember also, Library Counsel stipulated that prong 1 and 2 were satisfied, and only contested prong in the case was 3. In the Ripple court case, Ripple's counsel is going after multiple prongs. There's just a ton more here to look at from both sides, the SEC and also from Ripple's side of things. So it makes sense this is taking longer, and it's probably a more important ruling, to be honest. If we're going to look at various altcoin projects out there, they'll have little differences. Maybe one set up as a not-for-profit and another as a foundation and all this kind of stuff. But in general, I think they're going to be all pretty comparable to the facts and circumstances of this Ripple court case. Further, we drew a really good judge, and Ripple put up a great defense. So I think this is our best chance to get a really favorable ruling for crypto. We don't know how the judge is going to rule until it happens, and man, I cannot wait. And I made this point on Twitter today, because remember, the SEC, they like to cloud the issues at hand here. We're not fighting bad laws. We're not arguing that things should be treated in a different way. The SEC, they refuse to answer any questions. Which one of these coins are securities and why? And they don't say anything until they sue you. And then when they sue you, they don't tell you how to correct the situation. They don't say, all right, well, do X, Y, Z, or they don't tell you how to register and come into compliance, as Gary always likes to state. This is going to be the most transparent solution that we can possibly get. And however the judge rules, we will be miles ahead of where we came from, where we had no idea how to apply current rules to crypto. It's a gray area of the law. It's a novel area of the law. And we need some guidance here, and that's what we're going to get. I'm expecting a dominating victory here, but regardless of that, when we know where those lines are, we'll make sure we're operating from within the confines of the law. Not a major deal. Now, another thought-provoking tweet today by JV the Great. If you don't follow him already on Twitter, make sure you do. And he says the following, well, even if Hinman wanted to give Ethereum an advantage, and I wish he would kind of move it over from the even if to Hinman wanted to, because that's obviously what he was doing. What does that have to do with the evidence against Ripple? And this is very similar to what Mark Fagel says. He always says, well, that has nothing to do with this court case. Maybe there were conflicts of interest with Hinman. And again, even with Mark Fagel, I wish we could get there was conflicts of interest with Hinman. But I see what they're stating. If there was a security violation here, well, it doesn't matter what Hinman was doing. This court case may be valid. Now, I'll tell you why I think that this is important. Because Hinman's speech was about a regulatory gap, that the SEC did not have authority. Much of the Hinman documents showed that, people within the agency thought the same. And if Ripple fell within this regulatory gap, well, there can't be any evidence against them because, well, the SEC would have no authority. There's no security offering. We'll have to see if the judge agrees essentially with Hinman and that SEC regime. Again, the current one thinks everything is a security. And that's okay. They can change their viewpoint as we move forward. But we always have to ask ourselves, if there's not a securities violation, well, why would they bring this lawsuit? Well, you have Hinman and his conflicts, and you have Jay Clayton with many of the same conflicts. And so I think at least shows why they may go after Ripple, even if there wasn't a lot there. Even if they believed that crypto like XRP, decentralized network, utility use case, right down the line there of Hinman's speech. Even if they believe that, they still might sue Ripple because of these conflicts of interest. I still say it's wildly important. Now, how important ultimately will depend on the judge. Does she see this as a security transaction or one that falls within a regulatory gap that maybe somebody should regulate, but not the SEC as the way the law is written today. We'll have to see how she feels on the subject. If no security offering, then the facts of this court case really are quite irrelevant. So we'll have to wait. Now, FTX, last thing, they recovered $7 billion in bankruptcy. That leaves them about $2 billion short. A lot better than I figured they would end up, and there still might be more assets out there for them to seize. But my question is this: by the time they're done with this whole process, we know this is going to carry on forever. And all the attorneys just bleed those funds dry, and this whole process is just so costly. How much will really be left for depositors and creditors and things of that nature? There are many areas of cryptocurrencies that need to be addressed with new regulations, new protections for investors, but that's at the top of the list. When your money's deposited to a centralized exchange, that should still be your money if the business goes under. Let me know what you think down below, and as always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.